recent interview, the Battlefield 6 developers talked about console performance and what we can expect performance-wise, frame rate-wise when the game launches on October the 10th. I will have this article linked down in the description if you would like to read over it for yourself, but I know this is something a lot of people are curious about. Of course, the beta, performance-wise, played really well for me personally. I do play on console. I played the beta on the PS5 Pro. That's what I'll be playing the game on when it launches. But I know there was a lot of questions. Will we see improvements graphics-wise? Will we see improvements FPS-wise? And they answered all of this inside of this interview. So first of all, they talked about the PS5, so the base PlayStation 5. In fidelity mode, you're going to be getting 1440p at 60 frames. So that's going to be, really, really good graphics. But of course, that's going to be capped at 60 FPS. Performance mode is going to be at 1280p, and they said 70 FPS to 110 FPS on the base PS5. For the Xbox Series X, fidelity mode, once again, 1440 at 60 FPS. Same for performance mode as the base PS5, 1280p at 70 FPS to 110 FPS. When it comes to the Xbox Series S, they're not going to have performance and fidelity mode. It is just going to run at 1080p at 60 frames. They did talk about how Battlefield 6 was kind of built with consoles in mind, making sure that it performs correctly, but the Xbox Series S was a bit of a struggle because it is what they consider to be kind of like a lower end PC. They said it doesn't even have the same memory as a mid-grade PC, so getting it to run smoothly at 1080 and 60 FPS was the best they could do, but they felt like that's where you're going to get the best performance if you're playing on the Series S. So at least they were trying to make sure that it was going to run smoothly if you are playing on the Xbox Series S. Now, when it comes to the PS5 Pro, fidelity mode is 2160 at 60 FPS, and performance mode is 1620 at 60 FPS to 120 FPS. What I use to record all of my footage is an Elgato, and it does have an FPS counter on it. So I was kind of testing performance and fidelity mode in the beta. Fidelity mode, I could get over 60 frames at times, but of course, I think from what they're saying here, they've kind of capped it at 60 frames now. But in performance mode, I was staying around 120 frames. Sometimes it would drop to like 110, but I never really had any big drop off from 120. I will be curious to see, now that they've given us these kind of stats and statistics and things we can expect within each mode, performance and fidelity, how the PS5 Pro will perform when Battlefield 6 does come out. It's going to be curious. I'm going to be curious to see if it actually fluctuates at such a big rate, because they're saying 60 FPS to 120, and that's a big difference. I mean, I understand that even on a PC, of course, my gaming PC, if I play anything on it, sometimes frames drop when a lot of stuff's going on. And a Battlefield map is massive. There's a lot of players, stuff blowing up, buildings falling down, vehicles are everywhere. So if you get in a really crowded kind of area, frames are going to drop sometimes. But I'm going to be curious to see on at least for the PS5 Pro if it's that big of a drop, because I was kind of expecting what I saw during the beta, like I said, which was around 110 to 120, but mainly consistently at that 120 for the entire time I was playing. So I will be interested to see. The game, for me, like I said, on the Pro, looked really good in performance mode. It looked amazing in fidelity mode, but for my way I want to play, performance mode is probably what I'll be using the majority of the time. Of course, fidelity mode is great to take screenshots and things like that if you want to do that, but I'll be playing in performance mode mainly. I am going to be really curious to see if all of the platforms can hold that solid 60 FPS plus when the game releases, especially for things like the Xbox Series X and the base PS5. Because 70 FPS to 110 FPS, some people may be disappointed with that. Some people may be disappointed to hear that it's not going to be a consistent 120 across the board. Because, of course, when you're playing in a lobby with, of course, PC players, if you have cross-play turned on, you want to have the highest FPS possible, because a lot of PC players are going to be playing at higher FPSs. And depending on what type of machine they're using, they may be able to get a good bit more frames than we are, or kind of in the same area if it's more of a mid-grade style PC. But you want to be able to keep up with who you're playing with. You don't want to have a big frame disadvantage inside of a first-person shooter. No one wants that in any game. I will be curious, like I said, to see if this works as intended on the PS5, the PS5 Pro, the Xbox Series X, and even the Series S. Can the Series S continuously run at 1080 at 60 frames? I know there's been a lot of issues with the Series S on other games where it just does not really run that well. The visuals get really muddied and kind of bad looking. The frames seem to drop. I've seen a lot of people talk about that in the Xbox community. And I even saw a lot of people during the beta talk about how they felt like the Xbox Series X was never getting over 60 frames even in performance mode. We'll have to wait and see how all of the adjustments they have made since the beta will kind of be implemented into the full version of the game on these consoles. And I'm a big console fan. I've played games on console since the Atari. I do enjoy games on the PC as well, but everything I upload here on the channel is always, from console. So having a really good performing game that looks good as well is something that most console players are looking for. You either want really good performance and decent graphics, or both if you can get them. I prefer, the graphics don't have to be as good, personally for me, if the game performs really well FPS-wise. So that kind of leaves me with a question for all of you out there. Would you like to see Battlefield going forward? And of course, I don't think they would change it in this game unless it was something drastic, and a lot of people are asking for it. Would you like to see Battlefield games, and really any first-person shooter at all, start going with graphics that aren't just outstanding, but have a more consistent 120 FPS across the board? Or do you kind of like what they've done here, where you're getting that good FPS 70 to 110 on your base PS5 and your Xbox Series X, and of course a little bit higher on the Pro? Are you all right with that, or would you rather have them start making games really to perform at 120 all the time, no matter what scenario you're in, if it does kind of take a hit when it comes to the graphics? Leave me a comment with your thoughts, and of course, if you like the video, hit the like. If you have not subscribed yet, please do so, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.